Tonight, Westminster witnessed a political detonation. Keir Starmer's leadership did not simply falter, it was publicly dismantled by his own party. A no-confidence vote, a rebellion from within, and a crisis triggered by one of the most explosive Brexit controversies since the referendum itself. This is the story of how a single secret deal brought down a prime minister in real time and why the fallout could reshape Britain's political landscape for a generation. 72 hours ago, everything appeared calm. Starmer seemed firmly in control. Labour looked united. Brexit, at least publicly, was considered settled. The government's focus was on the economy, the NHS, and the cost of living. But behind closed doors, a very different reality was taking shape, one that would soon ignite the most dramatic political collapse Britain has witnessed in decades. Leaked documents hit the press like a thunderclap. They revealed that Keir Starmer had been conducting quiet negotiations with Brussels, not over minor technicalities, but over fundamental reversals of Brexit's core principles. Fishing rights were being offered back to the European Union. Trade regulations were being realigned with European standards. And most controversially of all, discussions were underway about allowing European judges to arbitrate legal disputes on British soil. For many, it was nothing short of political heresy. The very sovereignty that Leave voters had fought to reclaim appeared to be slipping back into Brussels' hands, not through a referendum, but through a secret backroom deal. When the story broke, the reaction was immediate and nuclear. Not from the Conservatives, not from Reform UK, but from Labour itself. The very MPs who had stood by Starmer through scandals, setbacks, and policy blunders turned against him overnight. Private WhatsApp groups exploded with fury. Emergency meetings were held in dimly lit committee rooms. Within 24 hours, something unthinkable took shape, a formal motion of no confidence in the Labour leader. One senior MP called it the most traumatic day in the party's modern history. Another said, "It was the moment we realized the man we trusted had deceived us." The signatures came thick and fast, not only from restless backbenchers, but from senior shadow ministers and veterans of the Blair and Brown years. Even some of those personally elevated by Starmer joined the revolt. This was no fringe uprising. It was a full-scale mutiny. A revolt born of one unforgivable sin, betrayal. Inside Westminster, the mood turned poisonous. Sources described scenes of chaos and confrontation. Shouting matches erupted in committee rooms, echoing through Parliament's corridors. Doors slammed. MPs who had once sat shoulder to shoulder refused even to make eye contact. One aide recalled hearing a senior Labour figure mutter, "He's finished. We're not going down with him." Another insider put it bluntly, "The party has turned the gun on itself, and everyone's finger is on the trigger." The rebellion wasn't orchestrated by any single faction. It was spontaneous, a chain reaction that united the party's warring tribes, from the Corbyn-era left to the centrist Blairites. By the time Starmer's inner circle realized how serious it was, the avalanche was already unstoppable. As Westminster descended into turmoil, the country watched in disbelief. In northern towns like Sunderland, Hartlepool, and Grimsby, communities that swung back to Labour in 2024 on the promise that Brexit would be protected, the sense of betrayal was visceral. These voters weren't reacting to abstract policy shifts. They were reacting to what they saw as the breaking of a sacred promise, the promise to respect the democratic choice they made in 2016. In Grimsby, one fisherman, his voice trembling with anger, told reporters, "We voted to take our country back. We trusted Labour to protect that. And now look, they've tried to give it away again. We'll never forget this." His words captured the mood of an electorate that felt deceived, and within hours, they became a rallying cry. Social media erupted. The hashtags #StarmerOut and #BrexitBetrayal surged to the top of trending lists. Videos of furious constituents confronting their MPs went viral. Memes mocking the Labour leader flooded timelines. Outside Parliament, protesters began to gather. By evening, the crowd had swelled from hundreds to thousands. Union Jacks fluttered in the cold air as chants of "Traitor! Traitor!" echoed across Parliament Square. Banners reading "Respect Brexit" and "Starmer betrayed Britain" lined the iron gates, but this was no longer just about one man. For many, it had become about something far deeper, the principle of democracy itself. Millions of people had voted believing their voices mattered. Now, they felt that promise had been broken again. Starmer's political rivals wasted no time. Nigel Farage appeared on every major network within hours of the no-confidence announcement. His message was sharp and surgical: karma has caught up with Labour. Their mask has slipped. They never respected the will of the people, and now everyone can see it. Reform UK's polling numbers surged overnight. This was no longer just a leadership crisis, it was a crisis of legitimacy. A Prime Minister accused of secretly reversing Brexit. A party imploding from within. A public, already cynical about politics, watching yet another promise collapse under the weight of betrayal. What began as a quiet negotiation behind closed doors had become one of the most explosive political scandals in modern British history. A story that tore through Labour's foundations and reignited the question at the heart of British politics: who, if anyone, still speaks for the people who voted to leave? In key battleground constituencies, Reform UK's support jumped by double digits. For the Conservatives, still reeling from months of internal turmoil, this sudden shift handed them political ammunition they had not expected. Shadow ministers began to maneuver, sensing opportunity amid Labour's collapse, but the real crisis wasn't external, it was inside Labour itself. Leadership contenders began positioning almost immediately. Calls went out to donors. Discreet meetings were held with union leaders. Rival camps started to take shape in real time. Labour wasn't merely divided, it was bracing for civil war. One political analyst summed it up succinctly: this isn't a leadership crisis. It's an existential breakdown. If Labour doesn't regain its footing fast, the damage could be permanent. Then came the vote. The House of Commons chamber was filled to capacity, every seat occupied, the press gallery overflowing. The tension was suffocating as MPs filed through the lobbies to cast their votes. The silence was heavy, no heckling, no murmurs, only the sound of footsteps echoing through the corridors of power. When the speaker finally rose to deliver the result, the air in the chamber seemed to tighten. The announcement drew audible gasps. Keir Starmer had lost, not by a narrow margin, but decisively. The scale of the defeat left no doubt. His leadership was finished. Some MPs sat motionless, stunned. Others quietly slipped out through side doors, avoiding the cameras waiting outside. A few were seen in tears, not for Starmer himself, but for what their party had become. Starmer remained still, eyes fixed ahead, seemingly unwilling to accept what had just unfolded. Within seconds, phones across Britain lit up with breaking news alerts. Starmer ousted in historic no-confidence vote. Newsrooms scrambled to rewrite scripts live on air. Outside Parliament, the roar of protesters filled the night, but this moment was about more than the fall of a single political leader. It was about something deeper, something far more corrosive: trust. Trust in politicians. Trust in Parliament. Trust in the idea that when the public votes for something, their government will honor that choice. And tonight, across Britain, that trust lies in ruins. Labour has entered freefall.